Ronald Acuña Jr. is back. Yes, welcome on into a special live edition of Braves Today for Friday, May 23rd. This is your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. A lot of stuff to get to. I want to talk about changing gears in the schedule. You had an easy stretch. Now you're in a tough stretch. I want to talk about how tough this series against the Padres could be. They are reeling. They are struggling, but they are sending three dudes at you on the mound. But before we do that, let's talk about the return of Ronald Acuña Jr. Quick special hello to everybody who is live with us on YouTube right now to break down this conversation. Those of you on audio, I'm going to do my best to make sure I read the comments out loud so you can also hear them as well, because I love you guys too. But the Atlanta Braves confirmed last night that Ronald is returning. And the quotes here. So the way this whole thing went down, and I'm a little bit frustrated about this, admittedly. Tuesday, we heard Alex Anthopoulos on, I think it was 93.9 The Game, talk about odds are Ronald would not be back on Friday. You know, that they wanted to see some stuff out of him, and if he played exceptionally, they'd have a conversation. Well, Brian Stitker discussed this last night after the game, and he said, quote, they double-checked with him, talking about pregame, and decided rather than him playing a game tonight in Louisville and taking tomorrow off, meaning playing last night in Louisville and taking today off, he'll take today off and come play with us tomorrow. He feels ready, so that'll be great. It'll be good to get him back in the lineup. And this goes a little bit against what the Braves had told us, not AA the other day, but before that, when they were talking about the goals in the rehab stint, was they wanted Ronald Acuña Jr. to play back-to-back days in the outfield, all 9 innings, because some of the issues here, like offensively, he felt okay, right? He's been hitting the ball well in AAA. He's been doing everything that he needs to do. He is 6 of 12 in AAA with a homer and 2 doubles. He's walked 7 times. He's only struck out twice. And so this was they want to see physically, how does he react to multiple games in the outfield? Is he tracking balls okay? Is he playing defense okay? And all of that stuff. And I guess he looked so good and he felt so good that they went ahead and they're skipping that. So he's going to be activated today. We do not yet have the roster move for what that's going to be. We will break that down a little bit, just a couple minutes here, your different options here. I have thoughts that are apparently a little bit more unpopular than I realized about who it should be. But I think we need to kind of Snit discussed what Ronald's been doing, the work that he's been putting in. Quote, he's been doing nothing but working out. And the reason to get him in the outfield, the knee's fine. It's about the rest of his body. He's in great shape. He's lean. He's feeling really good. The biggest thing was to hear from him how his body feels. After last night, he said his body felt great. So he'll be activated tonight. He will be able to play up to 3 consecutive games. We'll see how much the Braves actually want to use him over the weekend. It's almost assured he's going to be in the lineup batting leadoff today. The question I have is, are they going to try to play him 3 straight games before they give him a day off? Or are they going to, knowing that Monday's an off day, or are they going to try to maybe hold him out of one of the 3 weekend games early and then maybe pinch hit with him later or something like that? Everything that they've told us was the goal here is for him to come back without restriction, right? He came back in 10 months from the last one, and he really struggled, right? He had knee soreness. He had to DH some. That's not an option now because Marcell Ozuna cannot play the outfield. So if you DH Ronald, that means either you have to put Ozuna in left field, which is a disaster, or you have to bench Marcell Ozuna, which is also kind of a disaster. But this will be 3 days short of a full year from the injury. And Mark Bowman of MLB.com did a good job in his newest newsletter about kind of explaining exactly how good Ronald Acuña Jr. has been as the Braves leadoff hitter. So in his career, batting leadoff, his slash line is 293, 384, 533. So 293 batting average, 384 on base, 533 slug. Looking at every single player in MLB history who has taken at least 2,000 plate appearances from that leadoff spot, Ronald is the only one that's done it with an on base above 380 and a slugging above 530. The only one in all of baseball history. And even if you expand those numbers, Ronald is still, it's a very exclusive group. Again, Ronald has a 384, a 384 on base. If you lower it to a 350 on base and you lower Ronald's 533 slug to a 500 slug, the only guys that join that group, Mookie Betts and Charlie Blackmon. That's it. And without Ronald, Atlanta's leadoff hitters have had a slash line of 237, 279, 324. Ronald's career on base from the leadoff spot is 60 points higher than Atlanta's existing leadoff hitters slugging from the leadoff spot. It is incredible, like very, very clear that Ronald Acuña Jr. can do a lot of things to make this roster better. Shout out to Georgia fan in the comments. We are actually live today. Yes, we are actually live today. This is legitimately live. There's a couple aspects of this I want to discuss. And I think Sweppy here in the YouTube chat makes a great point. Seeing what AA said a few days ago and now being below 500, this feels like a move out of desperation. I don't necessarily know if it's desperation, but I've noticed this trend whenever Ronald needs to do some sort of rehab thing, is they start off very, very cautious. And then it turns out that Ronald just plays his ass off and they cut short the rehab thing every single time. And this has been a little bit of that. It kind of happens more often than not with a lot of these Braves players, right? Sean Murphy's rehab wasn't as long as we thought it would be. It's the idea here is almost that, hey, we're going to be careful until we know they're ready, and we're expecting it to take a while. I would rather assume it'll take him a week and him be ready in 3 games than to assume he'll be ready in 3 games and it take a week. And Jesse's asking the question here in the chat, who do they send down to bring Ronald up? That's part of the reason we're live today, Jesse. I didn't want to record a show this morning like I usually do. And then turns out the name that I picked was kind of wrong for who it was going to be. But I do think some conversation about this is warranted, because I wrote a whole newsletter that came out this morning on BravesToday.com about, in my opinion, the best move from a role and skills you can bring to the table standpoint was to cut ties with Alex Verdugo. Like, we all kind of assume Stuart Fairchild's probably going to be the guy. Maybe it's Luke Williams or something like that. But I argued it should be Alex Verdugo. And the reason for this is because if you look at what he does, he's like, from a pure number standpoint, he's not really bringing you much of anything, right? So offensively, okay, we know he started off very hot. His first week with the team, he had 2 4-hit games. He was hitting 341. Alex Verdugo, like, he had more walks than strikeouts in his first 10 games. We were 8-2 in that 10-game stretch. Since then, he's batting under 200. He has more he has more than double the number of strikeouts to walks. And I mean, they've started Stuart Fairchild over him against lefties. Verdugo's 2 for 23 on the season against lefties. He's gotten 3 games off in the last week. So offensively, the production's not quite there. And it's wild to me that a guy's either good enough to be a leadoff hitter or he's not in the game at all. But everything else that he does is also really bad. Okay. He is the worst defender on the team. -2 outs above average. And this is going into last night's game in 228 innings. Last year, he was +3 for the Yankees. His range is 13th percentile in all of baseball. He's lost multiple outs above average on his range. His arm is really strong, yes, but we've seen both in the decisions to try to get guys at home when you were not going to get those guys at home and the accuracy of those throws. A strong arm in and of itself is not necessarily enough to change things for you defensively, right? There's a couple times in that Boston series, he tried to catch Ceddanne Rafaela at home. Rafaela had already rounded third when Verdugo had the ball, and it allowed, I think it was Rafi Devers, to get to second and then get driven in, and that ended up being the pivotal run, I think, that tied the game there. Some of the defensive issues for him, a little bit of it's the foot speed. He's 21st percentile foot speed. He's lost an entire full foot per second off of his speed. But also, he's not reading the ball really well. He used to have an above average reaction, which is the first second and a half, how much distance did you cover? And then he used to be right around average in the second 1.5 seconds. I broke this whole thing down in the newsletter, by the way. This year, his reaction is average. So he's not getting good jumps. And his burst, the distance he covers in the second 1.5 seconds, is well below average, multiple feet less than the average MLB outfielder. So defensively, he's not giving you much. Offensively, right now, he's not giving you much. And base running wise, he's a -1 base running run value. That is 12th percentile. That is the worst mark on the team from the numbers perspective. Alex Verdugo is the worst base runner on the team. And that's just not just because he got thrown out at home plate by Jarren Duran when he was sent. Duran had the ball 3 steps before Verdugo hit third base. Now, the other argument here, and a lot of comments on this, is Stuart Fairchild should be the one that goes. And I do think it's important to mention on this. Fairchild, Luke Williams, none of those guys have options. So you can't just option one of them down to Gwinnett, keep them in the organization. That's the whole reason why we're even having the conversation. If Stuart Fairchild had options, 1, he's probably still with the Reds. But 2, you can just option him down and you're good. You don't have that option here. Somebody is going to have to be DFA'd. Because nobody on the active roster that you want to send down can be sent down. Michael Harris has options, I think. But I think that might really just be about it. And so you're not going to option these guys. You can't option these guys down. Whoever you choose to get rid of, you run the risk of losing that guy. I do think Orlando Arcia's spot is safe, simply because he doesn't do much right now. He's good in the clubhouse. We know that. And on the bench, he's kind of like the mascot on the bench, the Guillermo Heredia role, not as crazy with the swords, but still same idea. But also, if you have an injury, you really need to have Orlando Arcia to play either second base or shortstop. We think Eli White can play some second base. It's kind of probably unlikely that he can be a starter at shortstop every day. There's a reason he didn't do it after the first couple of years of his career, right? There's a reason they moved him off of shortstop. It's very rare for guys to move to shortstop in the majors after being moved off the position earlier in their careers. So Arcia is probably safe. Luke Williams could be the move. He has cleared waivers multiple times. He was DFA'd by the Dodgers a couple years ago, and Atlanta grabbed him off of waivers. Atlanta's DFA'd him twice, and he made it through waivers each time. So it is possible, because Verdugo is a lefty, and he is a veteran, and he does a decent job of putting the ball in play. It is possible that Atlanta decides, We're going to keep Verdugo. He gives you a different look off the bat, things like that. Different look in the box, right? And he's a veteran. We're going to keep him. Stuart Fairchild has multiple years of team control. I think he has 3 years of team control after this year. So if we can keep him, we keep him. And we're going to DFA Luke Williams and run the risk of losing Luke Williams if somebody claims him, or if he opts out, or if he opts to go to free agency rather than take an outright assignment to Gwinnett. We'll see what happens. I believe one of the 2 times they DFA'd him, he did elect free agency and then he re-signed with the team. That's kind of a lot of guys end up doing that just to test the market and see what's out there for them. We'll absolutely see what happens. To answer some of the questions here in the chat, Fairchild is faster than Williams. He's the 2nd fastest player on the team behind Eli White. And Georgia fan commented, we do have shortstops in AAA. He mentioned Nacho Alvarez. Nacho Alvarez is still on the 60-day IL with a wrist injury. We don't know the severity. Somebody asked me about this on social media recently. I've been trying to find out. The fact that he went on the 60-day, it's either some sort of break or it's some sort of like ligament tear and things like that. We do have guys playing shortstop in AAA, but I don't really think it's anybody that we want to bring up and use at the major league level. If there was an injury and you did not have Orlando Arcia anymore, you're going to be doing something like signing Nicky Lopez, who was DFA'd by, I think, the Cubs the other day. You're going to be doing something like that and sticking him in versus going with somebody in the organization. Okay. Let me know in the comments who you want to see DFA'd. I've seen a lot of people saying Fairchild's probably safe. Williams is probably the guy. But either way, I'm kind of curious to hear. A couple people agree with me on Verdugo. Thank you for that. In just a second, let's talk about the stretch of games you just finished, because I do think the Braves kind of missed an opportunity and things are about to get tougher here. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Chinook Seedery. It's a live ad read, folks. Listen, absolute best sunflower seeds on the market, okay? 8 different flavors, original lemon pepper. That's Bobby Witt Jr.'s custom flavor. He's a part owner of the company now. That's how much he likes these sunflower seeds. Jalapeno ranch, smokehouse barbecue, hatch chili, dill pickle, cinnamon toast, Parmesan, and pepper. I'm still finishing off that Parmesan and pepper bag I showed you guys yesterday. Not quite gone, but it's almost completely gone. I had to do more writing for that game last night than I expected for the newsletter because that was a wild one. But promo code BRAVES at ChinookSeedery.com gets you a couple things, okay? First, 10% off your order. Doesn't matter if it's a sampler pack, a variety pack, a case, whatever. They always ship sampler packs for free, but variety pack, some of all 8 flavors, or a case where you build your own. You pick just the ones you like. ChinookSeedery.com, promo code BRAVES. You get 10% off. You get free shipping on orders over $40. So again, ChinookSeedery.com, promo code BRAVES. Great way to get some great sunflower seeds. You have kids who play sports. They love these. I eat these all of it, like literally all day, every day. And supports the Braves Today podcast. Okay, let's talk about the schedule on this little special live edition. Maybe the news will break while we're live about the roster move the Braves are making. If you see it, throw it in the comments here on YouTube. I really feel like the Braves missed an opportunity here. Okay. You look at this series, the offense was so good in Boston last weekend. And even before that, the offense was a little bit better against Washington at home, right? You won 3 out of the 4. You really should have won all 4. Like, you were in a position, we talked about this, the bullpen blew that Wednesday one, and then blew a Saturday one in Boston. But you really had an opportunity to gain a lot of ground because you played, like, you had a couple of tough matchups. You played the Dodgers for 3. You won 1 out of 3. But, like, you got the Reds at home. You won 3 out of 4. You got the Pirates on the road. You lost 2 out of 3 to the Pirates. That was the biggest issue there. Nationals, you won 3. You definitely could have probably swept that had you had a working bullpen on Wednesday night. In Boston, you lost 1 of the 3 by a single run on a walk-off. You really probably could have, again, won that one on Saturday as well. And then the Nationals here, one of them's been because of rain. You get 2 of these games. You lose them both. Next, now, San Diego Padres 4-3. Then you go to Philly 4-3. Then you take on the Boston Red Sox. for 4-3. You have an off day. You host the Diamondbacks, and then you have to go to San Francisco for the Giants before going to Milwaukee for the Brewers, playoff team last year. Like, you don't have as many easy opponents, easy matchups as you were really hoping for here. Whereas, like, again, this was your opportunity to gain some ground because now things are tough, right? You've got the Padres, who are reeling, by the way. They have been held to very few runs in a losing streak now that is incredibly tough. But for the most part here, this is a winnable schedule. So I'm a little distracted because the Braves designated Orlando Arcia for assignment. I did not actually think they were going to do that. We got to talk about it. I really did not think he was an all-star in 2023 and he was DFA'd in under 2 months. So he's back now. You still have all of these outfielders. I do really feel like you're going to end up making a move. A couple people have asked for Nicky Lopez in here. I really do feel like Nicky Lopez is a guy you may end up going to get. Somebody in the chat here, Georgia fan, asked, do you think he gets claimed? I do not think he gets claimed. I think as bad as his bat was last year, I really think that he passes through waivers because, yes, he's owed $2 million for this season. He does have a club option for next year. But what about his profile last year and then what he showed early this year makes you think that he's worth anything more than league minimum or a minor league deal at this point? It is possible. It is entirely possible that somebody thinks they can fix him, and so they claim him just to have that option year, that one more option year there. It's entirely possible. But I genuinely do think that Orlando Arcia probably makes it through waivers, and if he doesn't, it's a cash considerations deal. You get 30 grand, 50 grand, whatever, to get Orlando Arcia back. I'm sorry, to move Orlando Arcia to that new team. You don't get anything of value back. I said this on the postcast last night. When you saw Luke Williams stay in the game to play shortstop after they pinch hit for Nick Allen, I really wondered if that was a sign that Orlando Arcia could be gone. And I wrote the newsletter arguing Verdugo should be the one. And when I tweeted the newsletter out this morning, I did say that it should be Verdugo or Orlando Arcia. And I got a lot of pushback on the concept of it being Verdugo. I got a lot of pushback on the concept of it being Arcia. But this is definitely something, if he clears waivers, I'm absolutely thinking he probably elects free agency. Lav has that question here in the comments. I do think he elects free agency and goes out to try maybe start new with a new organization. Loro asked, is this Alex Anthopoulos telling the players something? I don't know how much this is sending a message to everybody. I do think, as far as we chose Arcia to send a message, I do think it is possible that this is an acknowledgement that it does take 26 guys to win a ball game. And the only time you've used Orlando Arcia in the last couple weeks, you had him play defense once or twice in the ninth inning after you pinch it for Nick Allen. You used him as a pinch runner for Marcell Ozuna, despite Orlando Arcia's sprint speed being 1/10 of a foot per second faster than Marcell Ozuna's. I don't really know what kind of message this would be other than, hey, if you want to be goofy in the dugout when we're losing in Philly, we're eventually going to punish you for it a year and a half later. Like, I don't really know what kind of message it would be, short of we need everybody to contribute. And Orlando Arcia just hasn't, right? You traded Nick Allen, like you traded for Nick Allen for a non-prospect. There you go, Lav. Lav did say maybe the lessons don't make fun of Bryce Harper. Yeah, don't make fun of Bryce Harper. Philly does a good enough job at manufacturing outrage over everything. Don't actually give them something to get mad about. That's a good point. It's a very good point by you. I don't really know what kind of message that would send, but I do think it does say, hey, like, we absolutely have to have guys who can contribute. And as some people have said, he does, like, Orlando Arcia doesn't give you anything other than he's just in bench insurance. That's it. We did think he was safe as a clubhouse guy. Laura made that point. And at the same time, we're also not in the clubhouse, right? And at a certain point, you can't necessarily afford that mascot. Like, I made the Guillermo Heredia comment. Heredia played quite a bit of center field that year. Like, Heredia was on the field. Even when you added a bunch of outfielders, Heredia was still a guy that they would sub in late. And he would still get into games and provide meaningful defense. He'd lay a bunt down. He'd pinch run. He would do other things. Orlando Arcia doesn't do any of that stuff. Literally, the only reason to have him is in case you have an injury. He's not your go-to pinch runner. He's not your go-to bat off the bench. In last night, we saw he wasn't even your go-to defensive guy. They used Luke Williams for that. So I kind of get here that, okay, he's gone. Still kind of wild that we kind of lost him there. I'm just surprised by it. That's not really a move that Alex Anthopoulos has made. He usually likes to prioritize depth when at all possible, especially at a position in shortstop that we just have not had a lot of success with ever since Dansby Swanson left, right? Vaughn Grissom didn't work out. Braden Shoemake didn't work out. They both got traded. So there you go. All right, in just a second, let's talk about the Padres series. They are sending their three best pitchers to the mound this weekend. They need some wins. You need some wins. We'll break it down next right here on Braves Today. Final segment of a special live edition of Braves Today here on Friday, May 23rd. Let's talk about this Padres series, okay? So obviously we all remember you got swept in 4 games by them to open the season. That was completely ugly. And in that series, these guys outside of Nick Pivetta didn't actually do that well. If you remember, in the opener, that was Michael King versus Chris Sale. King leaves in the 3rd inning. He makes it 2 2/3, 3 runs on 4 hits, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. He gets tagged for a homer. I want to say it was Ozzie Albies in the 1st inning was the home run off of Michael King. But obviously, they go on to win that game. The Dylan Cease start. He doesn't make it out of the 5th inning. 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. He gets tagged by a homer. That was Jared Kelenic hit that homer in the 5th inning. That's right. Jared Kelenic was your Dylan Cease destroyer. Maybe they make a roster move for that game. And then the one you really struggled with was Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta goes 7 innings, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 4 strikeouts. You just can't get anything done against Nick Pivetta, and you end up losing that game. And I do think that these guys, the things that they've been doing this year, Pivetta is obviously the one is going to be the hardest to beat. There are things you can do. He's an extreme fly ball pitcher this year. He's getting just barely 30% of his batted balls are ground balls. He's given up a ton of barrels, a ton of hard contact. His hard hit percentage is like 40-something%. His barrel rate of 12.7% is like 9th percentile in all of baseball. But he's just throwing a bunch of stuff at you. The 4-seamer sitting 93, 94, but it's consistently good. Got the numbers here on it real quick. 161 batting average allowed, 290 slug. He's gotten a little lucky with this. The expected is a 226 average and a 452 slug, right? So he's gotten a little bit of luck on that. But the sweeper, he's using that a lot, almost entirely to righties. He's started 149 of them, 135 are to righties. Lefties see the curveball. Another pitch doing really well. Nick Pivetta, that's the hardest matchup there. That really is the biggest struggle to me of the 3. Michael King, again, you handled him pretty well the last time. His problem this year is his breaking balls seem to not be very good. The combined sweeper slider, 26% usage. So one at every 4 pitches is some version of one of those 2 breaking balls. -3 run value. It's been really bad. He can't really command the sweeper that well. It has super huge platoon splits anyway. You'll remember that. And so, and it's a lot of like righties get sweeper slider, but sinker, 4-seamer, he's throwing a lot of heaters at you. He's backing it up with the changeup. Everybody in the chat, Orlando Arcia is gone. Like, our long national nightmare is over. We keep talking about it here in the chat. So I do think Michael King is beatable here. It's a fly ball profile. He's given up plenty of hard hits. He is getting plenty of whiffs and strikeouts, but Michael King is beatable as well. Dylan Cease, I don't know what's going on with Dylan Cease. He has an ERA of 4.5. It's a 1-3 record and a 4.5 ERA. A lot of it comes down to the walks. His walk rate's like over 8%. And a lot of that comes back to his fastballs. He is one of his fastball, his 4-seamer is one of the worst 4-seamers in baseball right now, which is wild. He's cut back the usage a little bit. He's cut it back to like just under 40%. It's like 36, 37%. But it's still it's allowing a 267 average and a 493 slug. And those numbers are actually lower than the expecteds on both. So he's had some terrible luck on that. His whole thing now is, I'm going to try to throw the slider. I'm going to try to use the knuckle curve off of that. Sinkers are what he throws to the righties. The lefties get the knuckle curve and the changeup. But it's like slider, 4-seamer, and then something else. But the 4-seamer, like he's elevating a lot of them. The slider's down in the zone. They look the same out of the hand. That's a tough matchup there. The knuckle curve, he really can't control. The changeup, the most common uses of the changeup is above the zone. I have never seen that before. There's no way that's on purpose. He just doesn't know where the changeup is going. Sinker, most common place for that, upper third of the zone. Another thing. There's no way that's on purpose. So Dylan Cease is struggling right now. Lav has a good point here in the chat. Still want AA to get Cease this offseason. Dylan Cease is a free agent this offseason. So is Michael King. So both of these, 2 of these 3 starters you'll face are guys that could potentially be signed by you in free agency. We'll see what the Braves choose to do this upcoming winter. We've talked about this. You do have some money coming off the books. I also wrote about this over at Braves Today. I think in the draft, I think it was in the draft preview that we did earlier this week about Ozuna, Iglesias, both free agents after this year. That's $32 million right there in salary that is off the books. You may bring back Ozuna. We'll see what happens. You may not, because you want to be able to play Baldwin and Murphy more often than you are. So we'll see what they choose to do. But again, just kind of recapping the news from the day, Orlando Arcia is gone. I was admittedly not expecting that to happen. Genuinely wasn't. Again, I wrote a whole newsletter this morning about how Alex Verdugo should be the guy, and they turn around and they drop Orlando Arcia. Again, we have to figure out what's going to happen. He's going to hit waivers. He does have an additional year of team control through his $2 million club option for next year. It is entirely possible somebody wants to pick him up because they think they can fix him. And if they fix him, they can get an extra year of team control. So we will see what happens there. It doesn't feel very likely that somebody grabs him, but you never know. And Aaron and Carlos here in the chat, both talking about Marcell Ozuna. Aaron wants them to bring back Marcell Ozuna. Carlos doesn't think they will because he's 35. I do agree with Carlos that if they bring him back, I think it's a 1-year deal. I don't think he gets multiple years. He probably doesn't get multiple years from anybody unless there's somebody desperate for a DH only that gives them like a 1-and-1, something like that. I do think there's I've heard a lot of conversation from both hitters and pitchers about how Marcell Ozuna has helped them get through slumps, deal with issues, whatever it may be. Like, whether we like it or not, one of the biggest clubhouse leaders for this team is Marcell Ozuna. And I feel like we tend to kind of look at guys from Latin America, and sometimes we say that, like, they're a great mentor to the Latin American guys. But a lot of the comments that we've heard, Michael Harris has gone on the record talking about how Marcell Ozuna's helped him. Chris Sale went on the record early this year about how Marcell Ozuna has helped him. And so there is, for an organization that has had this running theme of clubhouse leadership walking, right? You lost Freddie Freeman, you lost Dansby Swanson, you lost Max Fried, all of these long tenured Braves that keep walking out the door. There is something to be said for the idea of keep Marcell Ozuna, because the Big Bear is a big part of your clubhouse. And yes, you have to be smart with it. You can't guarantee multiple years. You probably don't need to up his pay off of $16 million or something like that. But you do need to think about the impact of losing Travis Arnaud. You lost another clubhouse leader, of losing another clubhouse leader in another offseason. Yes, you have guys who are going to be around. You have Austin Riley, you have Matt Olson, you have Michael Harris. But it feels like that extra vocal leader has not necessarily been here for a while. And so Marcell Ozuna is the closest thing you have to that. He does a lot of it, probably a lot of his coaching in private. He'll pull a guy into the tunnel. He'll walk up to a guy during BP, something like that, and chat with them and kind of fix some of their stuff. But there you go. Baseball and More kind of has a thing on here, a comment in the YouTube chat. I just want Acuña to do what he's capable of. Get on base consistently. 2023, he would get a base hit, steal, then we already scored. He's not going to be stealing this year, so just singles. He didn't say he wasn't going to be stealing. He said he was going to try to be more selective with when he chose to steal. And I remember this whole conversation because somebody kind of went, forget who it was, but somebody reached out to him and had a conversation with him about, like, you can't just stop stealing completely. Because that was kind of his emotional response to getting injured while trying to steal or bluff a steal or whatever. And so I don't think he's going to steal as much. I don't think he makes 90 stolen base attempts in a full season. I think that point of his career is probably past. And that happens a lot when guys hit their late 20s, right? Like, you see a lot of guys start backing off how much they run. Trey Turner's a little older than that, but Trey Turner barely runs anymore as far as stolen bases, despite being one of the fastest players in baseball still. Just kind of a natural thing. As guys get older, they start running a little bit less because it is tough on your legs. But I do think getting that leadoff hitter on base, and I gave those numbers earlier in the show about Ronald's career on base at leadoff, 384. Since he's been gone, everybody we've had play leadoff in his place, a 279. 100 points lower. And this is, like, to Baseball and More's point, this is a different heart of the order, a different offense when you have guys getting on base consistently. And part of the reason I was so happy with White and Allen and Michael Harris at the bottom of the order, in the bottom three, was because they had the speed. They were able to find ways to get on, not like Michael Harris was walking or anything, but they could bunt to get on, lace a base hit or whatever. And then they had the speed to make opposing pitchers think about the stolen base, distract them a little bit, and then take advantage of a base hit to take extra bases. First to third on a single, scoring on an extra base hit, things like that. And Lav, again, a lot of great points in this show from Lav. Harris should move to ninth again with Ronald at leadoff. I've long been a proponent of Michael Harris in the 9 hole, simply because, and I remember writing about this at Sports Illustrated a year and a half ago, simply because he's been very outspoken that he likes hitting ninth and he's comfortable hitting ninth. And I think for all of the talk that we do, and I'm guilty of some of this too, of digging into the numbers and the math and saying, here's exactly what needs to happen or where you should put everybody, we forget about the human element somewhat. If you were designing a platonically ideal lineup, a lot of the common baseball knowledge would say Ronald shouldn't be your leadoff hitter, right? He should be batting like third with guys on so they can score and things like that. But Ronald Acuña Jr. likes hitting leadoff. He wants to hit leadoff, so we're going to let him hit leadoff. Michael Harris has gone on the record as saying he likes batting in the 9-hole. Let's put them back in the 9-hole. So there you go. A little bit long of a show today. Thank you to everybody who's been here. We had 100. I think I saw 135 people at one point in time. Thank you everybody who's been here. If you're listening on audio, do me a favor. Leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell because maybe we'll start doing live shows every Friday. I mean, Friday's a pretty light day at work for me. Maybe that's something we can do because it just feels like it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed getting to chat with you guys and answer questions and kind of the show weaved a little bit more than I was expecting, but I feel like we've had a good time. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.